This is the digital only cover for Truth and Justice, which this is issue 1. So far it's on issue 3. And I think this is by this guy, Geoffrey Thorne, who was the guy, I think, I'm not alleging this as a fact, I think he was the guy who wrote that comment to Candace Owens, calling her a trained, obedient, basically called her a house puppet. So this comic starring the short-haired woman, if you criticize this, you're racist and sexist. Okay, your terms are acceptable to me. How do I do this without getting a hate speech strike, which would be number 4 in the last one? This is retarded. Oops. But the kids who read it online for free seem to enjoy it. Of course, Detective Comics don't make any money from those high sea sailors. But what is money between friends, or dare I say comrades? Okay, we have our one, the only good character in it, who is dressed as an Impala, who I guess is fighting the evil Chinese construction, except they don't really point out that they're Chinese who are colonizing Africa. Just kind of leave that out. And there's a giant ape, so it's an Impala fighting a group of apes in Africa, and construction is just kind of in the background. This comic is a example of anti-white fruitcake globalism. It's the very first issue, which is digital only. So, like, what are the digital sales for this? There are 2 positively viewed characters, the black ones, and then 2 negatively viewed characters, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, every single effing time club. So African model, African designer, African shoot location. So you get a French girl with blonde hair, blue eyes. We talked about this, Elsie. Did we not talk about this? Okay, degrading, dehumanizing. But you're on a first name basis. But Ms. McCabe, so are you on a first name basis or not? Not what we agreed to. Ms. McCabe, either you're on a first name basis or you're not. You're not, nobody, this is professional, 2 women in a professional environment. One woman's not going to let herself be talked down to like that. Why is her hand in front of her face? Because the guy who wrote this, if he's a guy I think he is, Geoffrey Thorne, he's absolutely nuts. Just insanely racist. See, I think it's this guy who was an actor in the 90s. But I'm not 100% sure. There could be 2 Geoffrey Thornes. I checked his Twitter, but his Twitter is he just talks about music. So I don't know if it's this guy or not. I'm not going to try to allege that he said this about Candace Owens if I'm not 100% on it. But it could be him. He's an actor turned into a writer while he's writing for DC Comics. It could be him. And it's like, it makes sense. Yes, of course, DC would hire someone like this. Okay, so the reason they do this is basically like a racist, hate prawn, degrading, humiliating fantasy for the writers and everyone who worked on this comic. And at some point, someone had to have looked at this. I know it's digital and it's not getting a whole lot of oversight, and said, this is kind of weird. You get this, it's just leaving us with a weird feeling. Like, you take, every step you take is degrading, humiliating, and it's not making sense. But when globalists write propaganda, they're very, very heavy-handed. They make sure to use blonde hair and blue eyes, which, I've talked about many times. And once you notice the tendency to use blonde hair and blue eyes, or red hair, green eyes, and you notice that those guys are always the fall guys, it's literally every single time. They really, really hate white people with blonde hair and blue eyes. They always use them when they need an antagonist or an evil, malicious, stupid character. It's always the German stereotypes. It's all so tiresome. Don't German people have feelings? Or blonde-haired, blue-eyed people? It's like one of the rarest groups on Earth, and yet they're constantly discriminated against. So my question to woke, again, with the hand on the shoulder, hand on the face, really aggressive. Oh god, did I skip this? Okay, so she's, get up here. She's offering a bottle of water to this guy, Impala guy, who's injured, and he looks at her disdainfully, rejecting the water, and she says, "Oh yeah, I got a bit of." Oh no, he says, she's offering the water, and the model says, "Shoo, Elsie," and she waves her hand at her as she's submissive posturing, offering a water, disdainful look from Impala character, and the woman waving her hand at her, telling her to shoo. Just, for a minute, swap out the races, swap out the sexes. This isn't the 1950s. This isn't, wouldn't, like the naming thing, calling someone by their first name and last name. As soon as if you address someone by their last name, they call you by your first name, you would go to their first name instantly. It's either one or the other. And if she objected to it, you say, oh, well, we're on first name basis or not. This isn't the 50s. You're not some, I don't know what year this guy thinks he's writing in, but why would this supermodel who's working in a professional setting with a woman who is setting up to shoot or something, why would she speak to her like this? Why would they work together? Why would the blonde woman continue to call her by her last name if she's being degraded like this? Because this is woke comics in 2020 when this was probably written. Every bad character is going to be white, and it's not going to get any better. This is what they know. You don't want this. They know nobody wants this. What percentage of people buy comics are, what's the breakdown of the people in comic book shops? Black women? What accounts for your total marketplace in terms of who would buy this? How many black women are in comic book store? Oh, well, you should buy it no matter what. Well, then why don't you use another character? Oh, well, we want representation. But then why would people also want to see themselves represented? Why would your average American kid want to see someone who's not him? You got me there. Yeah, we got you there. But these aren't made to sell. These are just made digitally. I don't know what your profit margin is. On paper, it would be you might sell 1,000, but digitally, it's like, what are you getting paid for this? I know it costs a lot less to produce, but there cannot be a lot of money in this. So they're in Africa, and the bad guy's a white guy, I guess blonde, red hair in Africa. So every character, there's 3 black characters. There's a lot of We Was King's energy in this. Are black, and the bad guy is blonde hair in Africa. He's the bad guy in Africa who thinks he's a god. Thankfully, the short-haired black lesbian with the sides of her head shaved beats up the blonde guy with the Christian symbology. Or I know it's not Christian, but predates Christianity. It's not going to get any better. None of this is getting better. Here's the thing. Males, in general, it doesn't matter what color you are, they don't want to read about a female character. And a black female character, you're just diluting the audience even smaller. Ask black kids, would they rather read about, like, Luke Cage or some black chick with the sides of her head shaved? Nobody's buying this. You've lost like 90% of your audience. And then you make her a racist See You Next Tuesday who talks down to the blonde lady. None of this makes sense. None of this is like just a power fantasy. This guy is working out. Someone must have looked at this along the way and said, dude, you've got really deep-seated issues against white people. Maybe, get into some therapy or do something, or, I don't know where he lives, if this is an American, he lives in America, but I'd just go somewhere else. If you hate it so badly, and you hate the people you're working with, and you hate the people enough to do this, like this weird kind of power fantasy stuff, just move. There's a bunch of countries that would take you. It sounds like you're an actor, you've got some money. There's a lot of countries that would, with a very small investment, like $250,000, you could get a hacienda somewhere in South America, and you could still work digitally. Or you could go to Africa. There's a ton of countries that give you citizenship for a very little bit amount of money. You could look around. You wouldn't see the people that you hate. Just go somewhere else, man. Nobody wants this. That's a little coloring mistake where the water bottle is colored as the same skin tone. Kind of odd. A kid is going to read this, or an adult's going to read this, and like literally in the first couple pages, oh, this isn't for me. This is like a black power thing, a black power fantasy. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I will see you all on Bitchute, Odyssey, Gab, and I hope they start live streaming. That is going to be a lot of fun.